First up, I want to introduce you to the people who are going to be talking today. So my name's Tom. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Raisely. And joining me are two of my colleagues, Laura, who's a product designer here at Raisely, and Martin, who's our lead data scientist. You're going to hear much more from both of them later on in the presentation. I'm kicking us off, and then you'll get to hear what they have to say about various things later on today. Now, the first thing I want to do before we get any further is I really want to acknowledge the traditional owners and First Nations of the land that we all live and work on. I'm dialing in today from Wurundjeri country in Healesville, but I want to acknowledge that many of us in Australia, New Zealand, and across the world are on stolen land, and that the path to reconciliation is a long one, and there's always much more that we can do to support First Nations and Indigenous people. Now, we've got a bit of a packed agenda for today, so I'm racing through things. We are covering a bit of an update on Raisely's vision for individual giving. I want to share with you how we think about individual giving as a company, and I want you to help us shape that vision. I'm going to introduce you to our giving roadmap. It's our product roadmap zoomed into giving features, and it's going to cover regular giving, individual giving, appeals, donation forms, all of those kinds of things. I'm going to recap what we've launched so far and what we're planning to launch in the future. We have a bit of a section of things that have informed our roadmap. We've run quite a few A/B tests over the last little while, and we're going to share with you the results from some of the most meaningful A/B tests that we've run and how they can inform your own campaigns to increase your conversion rate and your average donation. Then Laura's going to take us through a big update to Raisely's donation form. We're also going to talk about the features we're launching today as part of that update. And you'll get to demo them, see how they work, and we're excited to get those into your hands in the coming weeks. Got a bit of a wrap, bit of Q&A at the end. So please pop any questions you've got as we're going in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer them all together at the end. Now, hopefully for you, you've heard a little bit about Raisely. If you haven't, I'll fill you in. Raisely's mission is to improve the well-being of people and planet by empowering charities and nonprofits everywhere to grow through fundraising tools. We want to help you bring every fundraising idea to life. And how we do that is that Raisely is an all-in-one fundraising platform. We've got 7+ different giving strategies and templates that you can roll out, everything from community fundraising, peer-to-peer fundraising, ticketing, individual giving, and regular giving. Of course, that's where we're talking a lot about today. Our branded pages are super flexible, and we see an average 20% plus conversion rate across them. We really focus on performance and optimization to make sure that your campaigns are as successful as possible. And lastly, we do business really differently. We're a proud B Corp, we're proudly carbon neutral, and we put purpose before profit. We're very much on your team. Now, why are we here today? Why are we running this webinar? Ever since we started Raisely, talking to folks like yourselves, talking to charities who use Raisely, who fundraise every day, has been what makes Raisely as good as it is today. It makes Raisely the product it is today. Feedback is super important for us, and we hope to achieve 3 goals in today's session. Firstly, I really want to hear your feedback on what we've been working on and our future plans. It really helps myself, Martin, and Laura design new features and figure out what to build next and make sure it's exactly what you need to thrive. Today, we also want to help you grow your fundraising, and we're going to share what we've learned through our A/B tests so you can implement those results in your own campaigns. And lastly, we thought, well, we should actually tell you what we're on so that we can give you confidence and help you plan as we innovate in the future. So we want to give you our plan for innovation, and we want to give you confidence in Raisely as your home for giving. So that's the 3 things that we want to talk about today. Now, I'm going to start with the big picture. I want to talk a little bit about what we're building towards, what we see, and what we think the future is for individual giving. And while I'm doing this, I'm launching a quick poll, just one question that'll help us understand your biggest challenges and help us shape our product roadmap to address them. So I'm just going to pop that in now. It should pop up on your screens. Just one quick short answer to help us understand what your biggest challenge is for individual giving. While you're filling that in, we've got 3 principles that guide our broad vision for individual giving. And firstly, you might be like, well, what am I talking about individual giving? I mean, donors giving you small donations. I mean your appeals, I mean your giving days, regular giving programs, all of those kinds of things encompassed in giving. Firstly, we believe that online giving will become the majority of giving. Now, if you've seen any kind of Blackboard report or any industry report, you probably know that it sits around 15% at the moment, 15 to 19%. And that's growing. It's been growing really rapidly. 10% year over year is kind of what we're seeing that growing. But there's going to be a day, and I think it's going to be a day soon, where that is 51% of all giving. We're building up to a world where the majority of these gifts are acquired online and collected and paid for digitally. We think this means three things. It means that donations are going to be embedded more deeply into every online experience. We're already seeing this happen with things like e-commerce. We're seeing this happen with social media. We're going to see donations embedded in all sorts of interactions that we have online. It means we're going to need greater sophistication in our different online channels. At the moment, we're pretty good at the common channels. We're pretty good at like promoting ads on Facebook and doing two-step kind of regular giving acquisition. And we're pretty good at sending emails to our supporters that tell a really compelling story and getting them to our page. But as we get to the majority of online fundraising being through online channels, we're going to need more and more sophistication, more and more targeting, more and more advanced strategies to make sure we're reaching people. And there's going to be a closer partnering of offline to online tactics to support a consistent whole of donor experience. We can't have one experience for our online donors and a different experience for our offline. If you want, in the chat, I'd love to hear a little bit about how your fundraising has changed over the last 5 years. Are you doing more? Are you doing less? Has it really shaped your organization? It'd be great to hear your experiences and share them with the rest of the folks on the webinar today. We have a second principle that we've really started to think about, and it's really started to shape as how we think about some of these features and how we think about Raisely itself. And that's that online fundraising is just fundraising. We've come out of an era, and certainly when we started Raisely, online fundraising was this separate thing. It was often run within a separate team in charities. It would be a separate budget. It would be a separate program and a separate strategy. But more and more, we're realizing that this is just fundraising. It's just a channel of fundraising. And of course, there's still direct mail. Of course, there's still phone fundraising, face-to-face fundraising, major giving, all of those things. But online fundraising is just part of a comprehensive fundraising strategy. And we're seeing it become more and more critical. So we shouldn't quarantine it. We shouldn't have a separate online team. We shouldn't quarantine our online fundraising strategy from the rest of our fundraising. So that means we need to see channel-driven silos broken down. Campaigns should work across all of them. Supporters are going to engage across multiple channels, online being really common. And your fundraising platform will become a source of truth for all fundraising in the future. There's a third principle I want to share around this vision, just to shape our roadmap that I'm going to get to really, really soon, which is that digital native experiences will lead the way. We're seeing this across all sorts of industries. But more and more supporters, people, ourselves, are expecting really seamless, really beautiful, and very integrated online experiences. As the web gets more and more sophisticated, our threshold for frustrating drops. And suddenly, if a page is too slow, or if a page is clunky, or we can't do something, our willingness to battle through and get that done is less and less. Even our interactions with the most complex of technology, even our interactions with our governments, are becoming more and more sophisticated over time. The bar is raising year after year. And so supporters are going to expect, in this majority online giving world, to interact with charities in the same way they interact with their businesses online. And that means that we need to be creating these industry-leading supporter experiences and continuously evolving them quickly. We're going to see that tolerance drop for friction in giving and supporter experiences. And we know that the savviness, supporter savviness, will lead to greater concerns about security and privacy. We've already started to see that this year with some very public data breaches that have happened over the time. So these are all things we're thinking about. These principles will continue to evolve, but they just help shape how we think about giving. And I really wanted to start with this because it'll helpfully give you a bit of a frame of reference for what we're about to share in our giving roadmap. So I'm going to jump over to that, our giving roadmap. This is Raisely's plan to rapidly work towards this future of individual giving.
And I'm going to dwell on this slide a little bit. We're going to talk about it in a bit more detail and break it down, but this is the roadmap. Ta-da. We have a few different channels here. So we have regular giving. There's a few things we've launched already, smart retries and upselling regular donations. We're going to talk a whole bunch about that one in a second. So that means nothing to you. That is expected. We're working on some nudges. We're working on importing regular donations. Now we're starting to plan out more regular giving metrics and then starting to think about or explore upgrade campaigns. Got more questions to ask about that at the end as well. We've been improving our donation forms. Of course, our donation form is the primary user experience for folks on your campaign. It's how they give you money. And it is an area of such great focus for us at Raisley. We've added features that allow you to control the form by the URL, like pre-select an amount and a default frequency. We've improved the Raisley tip box so it's clearer and more obvious to donors. We've designed a whole new donation form. We're sharing that with you today. We've added new forms of that donation form in buttons. We're sharing that with you today as well. We're going to be building embeddable elements so you can embed more than just Raisley's donation form on your external websites. And we're starting to think about automatic personalized URLs and automatic personalization and also automatic optimization to make sure that you're asking donors the right amount of money. We're also starting to think a lot about offline giving. And that's not supposed to be twice in this screenshot. That's supposed to be offline giving and payment methods. Well, I'll come to that in a second. Now, what do I mean by offline giving? I mean people taking payments over the phone. I mean people sending in credit cards in response to your direct mail. You need ways to process all of these different gifts. And we think Raisley's got a greater role to play in those ways. Thanks for whoever's updating that. So firstly, we have the ability to process offline payments. This is planned and it's coming in Raisley in the future. It's going to be the ability to take payments directly in your admin panel when someone's on the phone to you, or when someone sends in a letter with their card details. We're starting to explore a tap to pay app. I'm keen for your feedback on that in a second as well. And also starting to explore call center partnerships, where someone, a telemarketing provider, can take that first gift from a supporter and then can take subsequent regular gifts through Raisley. All things that are exploring right now. Finally, we have payment methods, a bit shorter, but we want to make sure that we are meeting donors with the method that they always want to pay with. Just this year, we launched direct debit in Australia and the UK. It's coming for the US and New Zealand. As soon as Stripe launches support for it in New Zealand, hopefully later this year or early 2024. We're bringing regular giving via PayPal to Raisley, and we're starting to explore Pay2, which is the Australian new direct debit system that's coming through, similar to Osco. Now you'll see we're emphasizing regular giving quite a bit here. And I want to ask, well, why is regular giving so important? Well, inviting donors to support your organization regularly is a great way to increase fundraising. It's also a great way to get stable revenue. I'm sure so many of you would know regular givers allow you to worry less about seasonal revenue and invest more long-term in your mission. And we want to really enable you to get those regular donors on board, because so many customers say to us, it's the hardest thing they have to do. So we crunch the numbers. We know that a donor who gives regularly typically gives 3 times more than a donor who makes one-off donation. So it's a huge increase. And secondly, we know that campaigns that use regular giving often raise, or typically raise, 2 times the amount of campaigns that don't use regular giving at all. So it's a really important part, a really important factor to your fundraising success. And when we crunch the numbers, we saw that on our platform, organizations who use regular giving grow 86% faster than those who don't. So adding regular giving to your fundraising strategy, if it's not a big part of it already, is a massive win that you should start to think about. Now, I want to recap what we've launched so far this year. These are things you've probably already heard of. I'm going to be pretty quick with them. We launched direct debit. So donors can now make regular donations using a direct debit. They enter in their, essentially in Australia, it's their BSB and account number, their account details. They can confirm that, and Raisley debits that card automatically. It's available in Australia and the UK. It's a choice on online forms. We can import direct debits into Raisley from your existing sources if you want everything in one place.
It removes the need for manual bank batches, auto reconciles failures. It's a really nice and simple system, all powered through Stripe. We also launched Smart Retries. Smart Retries is a retry schedule for regular donations informed by advanced machine learning. It automatically uses the most optimal days to retry your regular gifts so that they are successful sooner. It means that we're reducing the fatigue of failed card notices on donors, and this optimization is country specific because we do see different trends across different countries in terms of when it's best to try those donations. We also launched the ability to import regular donations via our API. Now, we've had the functionality to bring regular giving to Raisely for quite a long time now. Our support team and migrations team can help you do that at any time in bulk. But what if I want to add regular donations into Raisely in real time, say from a call center or from another application that might be taking those donations? So it's really easy now through our API to import regular gifts with tokenized cards. Very easy, even easier than before, to bulk migrate historic regular donations. We're always happy to help. And people like call centers or other integration partners can instantly add regular gifts to Raisely for rebilling. So you can have everything all in one spot. Now, that's going to be enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Martin to talk through our recent program of A/B testing and what we've learned. So Martin, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, really excited to join you all, and thanks for making time to spend time with us, hear about what we're doing. But we're really excited, as Tom said, to hear your feedback and things that you're excited about in terms of what we're doing. As Tom said, like, we've been doing lots and lots of experimentation recently, and to be honest, it's like one of the great joys of my job is running these experiments and designing them and analyzing them and finding out the results, even when they're sometimes in the opposite direction to what I might have thought in the first place. But that's all part of the fun and the experience of doing experiments. And as Tom sometimes says to me, that's why we do it, so we can learn and figure out what works and what doesn't work. So we're going to look at 3 experiments first now, and then later on we'll look at some of our experiments around our regular giving upsell. These first 3 experiments all look at the experience of the user when they first land on your donation form. So there are 3 different things that happens when a user comes onto your donation form: sort of the presentation of the amounts that are shown, and different things that we can do in that first instance and see the impact that then has on conversion, average donation, and fundraising. Just to note up the top, so we run these experiments where we serve them to thousands of users. Usually we would probably run an experiment for around 100,000 users. And I think most of the ones that we're showing you today have been run with 100,000 users to give us confidence in what we're seeing. And we randomly allocate people to different versions of the experiment, even with the same campaign that's using Raisely. So that really helps us control for variation across campaigns. And we do that using sophisticated machine learning when we analyze it to make sure that what we're seeing isn't driven by a particular campaign, but it's actually driven by the different variants that we'll kind of walk through. So the first experiment, if you're happy to shift over, thanks Tom, is looking at the amount order, so the order in which you present your donation handles or amounts, and whether you have a default amount selected. And I think there's been this sort of conventional wisdom that you should present donations in ascending order, and that's what most campaigns have done. But I guess part of our curiosity and part of thinking about the donation form, we wanted to really test whether that is the case, and whether presenting amounts in descending order from largest amount to smallest amount could actually increase donations, because users are seeing sort of a higher amount first, and it might bias them slightly, ever so slightly, towards larger amounts. So we run an experiment with 4 variants, presenting amounts from smallest to largest. So here we've got from $30 to $500, versus from in descending order from 500 down to 30. And the other thing we wanted to check was whether having a default amount selected, and in Raisely, when you have a default on, it's selecting the second amount in the order of lists, whether that has an impact in terms of fundraising. So in terms of conversion and overall donation. And it was really just to give us a sense, as part of designing this new form, what do we want our defaults to be? What settings do we want to make available as part of that? And so we can show you the results of that experiment. We've also got a blog out that kind of digs into this a little bit deeper. But the short answer here is that presenting amounts in ascending order with no default, so the conventional wisdom, really is right. That's 5% better than presenting amounts in descending order with a default selected, which I think it's a really interesting thing, and probably the scientist in me is still curious as to why that is the case. But it's a good thing to know that looking at hundreds of thousands of users, sort of hundreds, if not thousands of campaigns, we do see a pretty consistent pattern that presenting amounts in ascending order without a default is better. And yeah, we'll keep thinking about different aspects of that as well too, and different ways of presenting donation amounts on the form. Yeah, if we could jump to the next one, Tom. The next one is sort of probably the smallest and simplest change that you could make on your donation form. And you can wait until after the webinar to go and make this change if you want, but I think it's a pretty straightforward one. So on most of we always see the most common amount across just about every campaign, just about every campaign type. So whether it's peer-to-peer or it's an appeal campaign or it's an end-of-year campaign, is $50. People love to donate $50, and so we often have $50 as an amount on our donation form. We were curious to see if we change that $50 to $55, what impact does that have on fundraising? Do you lose conversions? Do you increase average donations? And so what I've shown here is that the average donation, so this is like if someone makes a donation, what the average donation is, that increases by around $3 if you change that $50 handle to a $55 handle. But I think that just an important caveat on this one is that there is a slight dip in conversion rate. So a bunch of people still go in and put $50 because they don't want to do the default 55. They'll go in and put $50. A decent chunk of people do that, and a small proportion, well, you just see a slightly lower conversion rate. So the overall change in fundraising is probably 1.7%, somewhere in that order. But for changing a 50 to a 55, increasing your fundraising by 1.7%, it is worthwhile, but it's sort of an incremental change, which is what we're always looking for, is these small incremental changes that when we get them together, they add up to something more like 10% when you do all these things in combination. Our third experiment was looking at payment logos or credit card logos. So we wanted to see whether, if we have these, as you can see there on the left-hand side, your Amex, your Visa, MasterCard, Apple Pay, Google Pay, those logos there, versus not having them, does that influence the fundraising in some way? And so again, another pretty straightforward experiment. We ran this with over 130,000 users over a decent chunk of time with thousands of donations. And if you jump to the next slide, Tom, what we saw is that overall the average fundraising per user, so this is incorporating both the amount that someone donates and their conversion rate, increases by around 2.5%. So that's not just the average donation increasing, but also looking at do more people convert as well. But there's an increase of around 2.5% there by having those payment logos on. And so this is influencing, Laura will talk to this in a second, in terms of our new donation form, having those payment logos on there. But just to break down, and this is kind of a point of interest for us and something that we're going to keep looking into when we launch our new donation form, most of the uplift that we saw here was actually from increasing the average donation. So people are donating more when those payment logos are on the form, which to me is just, I don't know, I may be skeptical or just keen to understand more. Does having those logos there give people a sense of confidence, and so then they can go and donate more, rather than seeing those logos there and then being like, okay, they take Apple Pay, I'll go and donate. It seems to be more associated with confidence and then making a donation than it's necessarily about I need this specific payment method to be there. We were having a conversation internally yesterday, and someone noted maybe for people who want to use Amex or something that's more of a premium payment method, seeing that on the form, that might make them more likely to donate a higher amount because they know, hey, I can pay with Amex, which has benefits and things associated with it. There are 3 experiments. So there's the donation amount, and we recommend showing amounts in ascending order without a default. There's shifting 50 to 55, which is a tiny change, but leads to an incremental increase in funding, and including payment logos on your form, which Laura will speak to a bit more about our brand new donation form, which will feature those payment logos.
So thank you, Martin. Yeah, I'm really excited to take you through the design of the new Razy form today, and how we've incorporated research and optimization into the new donation form design, and yeah, what's coming next in this big iteration. So our current donation form is all right, but at the very start we kind of asked ourselves, what if we designed a donation form with what we know today from scratch? What will we do? How would we incorporate all the payment methods that exist today? How would we delight our donors as they fill it out? How would we help charities ask the right amount? And how would this form live within the broader brand experience of the charity? And underlying all of these questions were 4 key objectives that we were working towards, which is making our form in general more beautiful and elegant, increasing the average gift size, increasing the conversion rate, and increasing the conversion rate to regular giving. So all of these feature updates that we've been doing have been to achieve one of these points. Specifically for conversion rates, it was really interesting to us to look and learn from other industries and really dig into research that exists out there in the market at the moment. We were looking at what are people doing to make e-commerce experiences really great at the moment, what patterns are modern tools using to make form completion and onboarding feel magical and easy, and is there any research that we can use to inform our future donation form design? And can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so one of the research that we found was we landed about 18% of users abandoned checkouts due to feeling insecure. So this research was done as part of a cart and checkout usability research that has been tracking these insights for about 12 years. But I think there's still something that we can learn and translate from this research into donation form, as checkout and donation form both handle confidential credit card information, so people might feel really precious about this information. You don't want to share that with everyone. And so we've been asking ourselves, what can we do to improve and make our form feel more secure and help our donors feel like they can trust us? So firstly, we looked closely at the design of our new payment step. Thank you. So one of the things we can see, so on the right, you see our new payment step. One of the things we've added is a new security seal, which adds, because one of the researchers that they found is like, if you add a visual icon that has shown to help increase the user's general level of perceived security. It has nothing to do with the actual technical security, it's just how donors and users perceive the level of security. Another thing we've done is we've visually encapsulated the credit card fields, because again, research has shown that making the payment detail fields visually distinctive and look different from other fields in the form increases the perceived security level of those fields. We've also worked on a redesign of the Razy tip box to make our explanation of the fees and the opt-in more clear for donors. And another thing that was really a big point that came up is that often a general lack of technical knowledge and understanding in users means that we can strengthen the perceived security of the form by things like adding a security seal, but at the same time, it also shows that like things that actually don't have anything to do with the level of security can feel people less secure. Like if there is an unrelated layout quirk that happens in the form, that can make people feel like they can't trust the site. So if you're working hard to make sure that the layout of the form is more stable and more secure on all the iterations of the RAISY form. And then, so another thing what we've been working on, as apart from increasing the perceived trust, is like making our form more exciting and feel more seamless in the experience. So one of the things we've been really excited to show and like share is we wanted to make the feel of form like it's part of like the latest iteration of the internet. So no more janky transitions between steps. We've got transitions that feel like really seamless and help users understand that certain steps are connected and make our form feel really high quality and expressive and dynamic. So you can see in the video like the before and after, like swapping between steps. We're like making sure these transitions feel really seamless and like nice, as a lack of a better word. We've also been like taking these transitions and try to put the same amount of attention into small details in the form. So what we've been doing is, can we swap to the next slide, please? Cool. So we've also carried the same amount of work into transitions that we put into transitions into like the small interactive elements in the donation form, like micro animations on interactive elements are used to give donors feedback that the form has received their request. So a great example for that is if someone clicks on a payment button, we want them to know that the click has been registered and we are processing the payment, and avoid having them click a second time and potentially resulting in a double charge. So we want to make sure that these microtransactions can like really add personality to a form and make it feel more expressive and high quality and seamless. So you can see, for example, here we've tied our payment processing animation. You click on the button, you get a little heart animation, and that seamlessly ties into the thank you animation. Okay, sorry. I'm really sorry about the background noise in here. If you hold on for 1 second, I'm just going to ask them to be a little bit quieter in here.
That's totally fine. I can answer a few questions while you do that, Laura. And I'm going to spot myself because I, totally know how to use Zoom. While Laura quietens her room a little bit, sorry about that background noise. These updates that we're sharing right now, they're not currently live. This is coming really soon. So this is likely going out in beta to a few select customers. If you're keen, let me know, perhaps next week, but launching in July. So we really wanted to give you this sneak peek now so you knew what was coming. We'll actually have a demo a little bit later on that you'll be able to play around with yourself, but yeah, these aren't live right now, but they will be coming really soon. Laura, you good?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yes, so if we're going on to the next slide, we've also been working on some nudges, like Tom already kind of like mentioned earlier. So one of the things we've been working on is a regular giving nudge, which you can see at the top. So that nudge lets charities add a custom call to action to encourage donors to give ongoing. And it's just another great example of how we use like small animations to add a little bit of delight to that experience. And then below you can see a preview, which we're currently running an experiment on, which is we've been testing a version of the donation form where we add a recommended label to the third donation amount to see whether this will will lead to an increase in the average gift size. But results are still outstanding, so stay tuned on that one. And then finally, I'm like one of the probably biggest updates, which I'm super excited to share, is one of the questions we asked from the very beginning was like, how can the form live within, different, like in the broader brand experience for charity, and how can we make it more flexible, and how can we make it feel more immersive? So I'm really excited to share the modal flow, which allows you to integrate the donation form in different parts of the Raisely website than before. So the modal flow opens the donation form and overlay on top of your Raisely site. It removes any unnecessary distractions and lets donors focus on the donation form and nothing else. And our hope is that we will see an increase in conversions from this down the road. So the donation form in the modal is accessed via our new page builder block, which is the donation button. The donation button comes in two variations. We've got the single donation button, and then also we have a button row with the amounts of the donation form. And for both, you can also choose whether you want to default the form that opens up to a once-off donation or to a regular giving. And you can customize that for every button that you implement on your site anywhere. And then speaking of regular giving, so we've also been working really hard to increase, see how we can push regular giving and get a higher conversion to regular giving, because we think that this is a really important revenue stream for charities and can help them make a bigger impact. So one of the things that we've been working on is the regular giving upsell. And the regular giving upsell is a prompt to donors in the donation form to prompt them to convert a one-off donation into a regular donation instead as they move through the donation form flow. As we kind of like designed this, we were asking ourselves, what is the best position and what is the best design for this regular giving upsell? Like, how can we make sure we don't see a drop off in general conversions when we're adding this into the flow? And how can we make sure we're picking the best version of this iteration? So if you can go another slide further, please. The next one, yeah. So we ran four different variations. So the first variation was on the upsell position. You can see like option A was putting the upsell straight after the amount selection steps. So in the first step, you would select, let's say $50, and then the regular giving upsell comes after that step, asking you to upgrade your once-off donation into a monthly donation. And then option B was putting the regular giving upsell after your account details just before the payment step. And then the second part of this experiment was the design of the regular giving upsell. And if you can just go to the next slide, please. Thank you. And by design, what we mean is more, how does it feel as part of the form? So you can see option A is kind of like the upsell like pops up like an overlay. So it's not technically, might not feel like part of the form, but it's more like a pop-up that comes on top of the form. And then in option B, it's just a step. So you see like the form has 4 steps, and the second step is the upsell. So those were the 2 design variants that we tested. So we had these 4 different versions, and then Martin is going to take you through the results of this experiment because he knows better than I do.
Thanks, Laura. And I guess just to note that this is like a really great example, and something that, is super exciting for us, is like using experimentation quite early in the design process, or relatively early in the development process of when we're building a feature, when we have a few different paths that we could walk down, and saying, okay, well, which one of these is the best path for us to walk down? And we don't let data dictate to us what we do, but we do want it to help inform what we do. And so running an experiment like this relatively early can help us shortcut things and make sure that we're moving down paths that are the best in terms of fundraising, conversion, and all those other things. So there's 2 graphs here. The one on the left is looking at overall user conversion rate. So this is someone making any donation, whether it's a one-off donation or a regular donation. And you can see, so original there is no upsell. And you can see that step after amount. So when we use the step instead of the overlay, and when we put that after amount rather than after the detail step, so later in the form, that has a similar overall conversion rate as no upsell. So that's really great for us. It means that we can include this upsell and we're not going to turn a whole lot of donors off. The donation, the difference there is a very small, like 0.04 of a percentage point in terms of overall conversion rates. We can put the upsell there and we're not going to turn people off. In contrast, using the overlay, that did seem to turn people off a fair bit. And so those conversion rates were a fair bit lower. So we want to balance those two things. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the percentage of people who are converting to doing a regular gift. And so without an upsell, that's around 0.7 or 0.6% of people would sign up to regular giving. But with an upsell, we say that that roughly doubles. So you're doubling the number of people who are signing up to regular giving, and more than 1% of people who are seeing your form are then converting into having a regular giving subscription, which, like, we're super excited about this. So this is sort of, once we've found those, which of the paths is the best forward, this is just sort of looking at the most optimized version of our regular giving upsell, which we're continuing to optimize at the moment. And there was a question in there around, like, what's the amount of the upsell? And the way that we've set it up at the moment is that we're optimizing that amount based on the initial one-off donation amount. And it's probably around 50%, but we're continuing to optimize that, run further experiments, and do analysis to make sure that the amount that we're showing is the amount that's sort of most likely for someone both either to continue making a conversion, we don't want to turn anyone off, but also to accept the upsell and move on to regular giving as well. Like, we're always balancing those two things and thinking about that, but it's not a fixed, it's always half of the one-off donation amount. We want to make it more sophisticated than that to present the right amount to people. Anyway, that was a slight digression, but yeah, so we're seeing that the new upsell is doubling regular giving subscriptions. But if you just flick over to the next slide, Tom. Two things that we just wanted to highlight here as well is that the regular giving donation amount is roughly the same as the regular giving amount through people who aren't using the upsell. So it's around just under around $24. So you get a lot of people signing up for 10, 20, but also 50. And across those, it balances out that the average donation through the upsell is similar to regular donations, which is good. We didn't want it to be lower or particularly higher. We wanted it to be as similar to other regular donors as possible. And we think overall, it's still early days, but we think it's expected overall fundraising by at least 6.5%. That's assuming that these regular donations last for 18 months. Usually we see regular donors lasting on average for 24 months. Some last, of course, we've had regular donors lasting 5-6 years. Since we turned regular giving on Rayleigh, we have people who have subscriptions that are still going today. You get a small group of people who last for a long time. We don't know if the upsell group is different to the normal group, and that's something that we're going to keep monitoring and keep our eye on, because we want to know, are they lasting for a shorter amount of time, a longer amount of time, and just the behavior of people who've participated in regular giving through the upsell. We want to be able to understand that and give that back to you in the same way that we're doing things like this today. I think that's the end of the upsell results.
That is the end of the upsell results, and I think that's a wrap on the form. Now, Laura has prepared a beautiful demo for you all. So if you would like to scan that QR code on your phone, or Laura's just popped the link in the chat. But this is a demo site that Laura's made that shows all of the things that we've just shown you today. So these features aren't, most of the things we've shown you today, I'm pretty sure all of them, these features aren't live yet, so you can't enable them in your Rayleigh account yet. They're going through kind of final testing from our team, and we expect that they'll be available in beta probably later next week, and then available for everyone at some stage in July. If you're interested in trying these in beta, please get in touch. You can message us in the chat, or send us an email to support@raisley.com, and we'll make sure you're on that list for that beta if you're interested in trying these changes before they're enabled for everyone. But look out for that email that lets you know that these are on your account. These will be available on all campaign types. You're not going to need to recreate campaigns. They'll essentially be a toggle in your Raisley admin panel where you'll say, I want to upgrade to the new form and enable these new features. So it's a really simple upgrade for you when you're ready. It's really just a kind of a one-click affair, and then you can set everything up from there. So have a play around with that. This has been a lot of work. Laura's been designing this form for a long time. We've had a whole bunch of engineers building it. We'd love to know what you think of these new features, of the user experience, of the way we've integrated that research and that testing into that form. It's pretty incredible, some of the results we're able to get, that we're able to double the number of regular donors you get through the form through that upsell, and even those other things where we get 2 to 3% revenue increases through small changes, whether it's the security, little security lockbox that Laura talked about, or whether it's the card payment logos on the front screen, and all of those different things, and even some tests that we're still yet to run, can really add up into really large increases to fundraising. And that's obviously what we're all about. And we'd love to hear your ideas again in the chat. If there are things you'd like to see us try that you've seen work well in other donation forms, we're very happy for those ideas as well. Going to quickly wrap up, then we're going to have 10 minutes of questions. So if you do have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A box, and we're happy to chat through those. But we've covered a lot today. I know we've been blazing through things at record speed here. We've covered our regular giving, our individual giving roadmap, including a big chunk of functionality for regular giving. We've rehashed what we've launched. We've got offline transactions coming soon. We've got direct debits in Raisley now, with more countries coming online soon. We've got this great new donation form that's launching in July. It's not far off at all. It comes with donation buttons, a new really nice modal layer. We've got all sorts of optimizations in that donation form. It's such a big improvement. All of those A/B test results that we've gone through. So if you take anything away from today, if you jump on your Raisley accounts, if you have a dollar handle that is $50, increase that to 55, and you'll see a bit of an increase there. And of course, that regular giving upsell. Now, the regular giving upsell is available today. It's live today. We saw those results where it doubles regular giving, and we had to get it out. It's such a remarkable outcome. So even if you've got on your Raisley campaign today, as long as you're on our latest donation form, which most people are, just head into your settings, donation form. There's a new tab there called regular giving, and you can enable that upsell today. Of course, upgrade to the new form when it's out, because everything is so much better. But yeah, you can enable that today to take advantage of those features. All right. Now, when I showed the roadmap slide, you might have noticed these things, what we're exploring. We're starting to think about our next big giving features. There's a bunch of stuff planned that we're definitely doing in the future, but we're starting to explore these. These are kind of areas that we want to learn more about. We want to understand demand for these features. We want to do all of those kinds of things. And there were 5 of them, I can count. Yep. There was a tap to pay app, which is the ability to have an app on your phone where donors, like you could roll this out to volunteers or to staff, where donors can tap to make a donation to your charity without needing a card reader. Call center partnerships. So prominent call centers that many charities use are able to send data directly into Raisley, particularly for regular giving. Automatic personalization, so that when you send emails to your donors, their page is automatically personalized based on their last gift and other information we might have about them. Automatic optimization, which is the ability to automatically optimize the amount or the button handles or the kind of the amount that you ask your supporters, more smarts in that area. And lastly, by upgrade campaigns, I mean streamlined first-class ways in order for you to increase a regular donor's amount or gift once they become a regular donor. I'd love to know what you think of these. So I'm going to launch one more poll, and I'd like you to pick the top, what we should be exploring as a top priority. And if your top priority is not on this list, then pop it in the chat because we'd love to hear those as well. But tell us what is most exciting to you. If you're really passionate about one of these, please send me an email. That's my email there, tom@raisley.com, super easy to remember, and let me know because we're really keen to chat to you, understand this functionality, and start to explore these features more. From here, we're really excited to grow individual giving within Raisley. We're building Raisley to be an all-in-one platform that you need for all of your fundraising. And we're investing really heavily in these giving experiences for your supporters and really easy setup and management for you. What does it mean? Well, at the moment, we've got industry-leading appeals and giving days where an average of 1 out of 5 visitors give. You can migrate your regular giving to Raisley for simpler reporting, self-serve updates, cancellations, card changes, all of those kinds of things, and really smart retries. You can embed a Raisley donation form, including this beautiful new donation form when it comes out, on your website using our embed code, or we've also just launched a WordPress plugin that makes that even easier. And lastly, all of this integrates automatically with Raiser's Edge, NXT, and Salesforce. So of course, obligatory little sales pitch here. If you're not using Raisley for individual giving right now, if you're using us just for peer-to-peer, I'd really encourage you to think about this. This is a really exciting roadmap. We'd love to help you. If you'd like to chat more about this functionality, how it can work for your charity, then you can scan that QR code or just go to raisley.com/demo to get in touch with our team. Now that's all we've got time for. We've got prepared for you today. We've got a few minutes left for a few questions. That QR code there will just take you back to Laura's preview if you want to click around with it in this last little bit, because it is just that good. But we're going to move to some questions. Pop them in the Q&A. We've got a few things here. I'm going to try to answer some of them, and some of them might be for Martin and for Laura. All right. Chris has asked, are there plans to be able to embed a modal form into an external website? There sure are. I'm actually just going to pull up the roadmap while we answer these things. Embeddable elements is something we've got planned in the near future. So that'll include the ability to embed that modal form and the actual button amounts into a website. We're also exploring a bunch of other embeds, like more in the peer-to-peer front, but say your progress bar, your fundraising total, leaderboards, those kinds of things. We want to explore being able to embed those into external websites. Nicole has asked, for offline processing, do you have a bulk processing method, or at least an interface that enables the quick processing of tens to hundreds of mailed-in donations? That is exactly what we want to build. So when we say process offline payments here on our roadmap, we're really excited to have flows inside the Raisley admin panel that make it super quick for you to process those donations offline. Tasha's asked when we expect that to be available. We don't know yet. We're hoping it's available this year. So we've got 6 months left in the year, and we're going to keep targeting that. There's some big updates coming to the Raisley admin panel in the next few months, beyond the reskin that we launched just recently. So yeah, we expect that to be available this year, and we're trying to build a really nice flow there where you can key in lots of those quickly, able to process those donations quickly. I did see a question come through about pricing of those. I can't remember who asked it. Yeah, here we go. Someone asked, with the importing of regular donations, how will that work with the opt-in Raisley fee? And it's the same for offline payments. So when you import donations into Raisley, whether it's through the API or you process offline payments, so essentially any payment where it hasn't gone through our live form when we ask the tip box, the Raisley tip box, then we're charging a 1% fee to make sure that we're able to provide that functionality to you. So it's just a small 1% platform fee on those donations in order to process them, to put them through the platform, to provide all the functionality we provide around that. So that goes for imported regular donations, as well as offline payments keyed in through the admin panel. There'll be a 1% fee there. All right, let's go and take a breather. All right, we have asked, Ingrid's asked, when exactly or roughly are online direct debits coming to New Zealand? Ingrid, I wish I had an exact date for you. We're relying a little bit on Stripe here. So Stripe doesn't have support for regular, for direct debits in New Zealand yet. We hope they're working on it and hopefully it's coming soon. So we'll keep you posted as soon as we hear more. We think it'll be in the near future, but we are relying on Stripe there. In terms of PayPal, so PayPal, we can currently take donations through Raisely with PayPal for once-off gifts. We don't support it yet for regular gifts, but that is coming. That's planned. Again, don't have a timeline. When we say something's planned, we know it's coming up next on the roadmap. We work on 2 to 3 things all at once. And so we're going to be moving through the planned items here pretty quickly. But yeah, we'll see that, if not this year, early next year, hopefully sooner than that. It's not far off. We've got an upgrade to the connection we have with PayPal launching next week, which will just make it much easier for you to connect PayPal to your campaign. So that's the first step for us to offer regular giving. The Tap to Pay app, in terms of pricing, it's hard to say at this stage. We're very keen for feedback. Our gut feel is it's probably got some fee attached to the donations coming through the app. But yeah, we're very open to feedback on pricing there. As we start to explore that, it's way too early for us to say how that'll be priced. Martin, Laura, if there's any questions here that you'd like to jump in on and answer, do just let me know. But I think they've been mostly roadmap ones. We can all just tell Laura and Martin.
Yeah, I was looking for any data ones, but there doesn't seem to be anything there. That's okay.
You were just too clear.
No, I don't know about that. Yeah.
All right. Let's see if there's any others that I've missed. Donya has asked whether we're planning to integrate any other payment platforms in addition to Stripe, i.e. Shopify, Square, or PayPal in the coming year. We do already integrate with PayPal. We don't have plans to integrate with Square. Shopify actually uses Stripe. So Shopify isn't a payment method in of itself, unfortunately. We find that Stripe allows us to, Stripe is the best payment gateway out there. It's competitive in terms of pricing, but it allows us to build such incredible experiences really quickly. And so if we were to integrate with lots and lots of different payment gateways, then we'd be spending a lot of time managing those gateways instead of building really beautiful donation experiences that really convert. And that's where we want to spend most of our time. And Stripe really enables us to do that, which is why we prioritize Stripe here. The transaction details on your website is planned to show Stripe fee and Raisely fee separately, Donya also asked. Donya, if you email our support team about that one, I might need a bit of clarity on it. The Raisely tip box is always just for the platform fee. So you, as an organization, you do always absorb the Stripe fees or the processing fees. We do try to outline that on our pricing page on our website pretty clearly. And we're also launched custom pricing if you want to change that checkbox option. So there are a few different options we can talk through with you there. We're getting most of them. Ingrid's asked, does using Stripe mean that expired cards are no longer a reason why payments get declined? It's a good question, Ingrid. Yes, largely. So Stripe has relationships with card networks that mean that they can often rebill cards even after they've expired. So we don't generally ask people to update their card, even if we don't send those emails to say, hey, your card's expiring soon, you need to update it. Because essentially we just keep trying to charge their card. And if it fails, then they'll get a failure notice. But generally card providers say, oh, okay, I've already had a whole bunch of payments from XYZ charity for $50. They're always around the same time. We're just going to keep letting that go through even after the card has expired. And that's because when a card expires, you don't actually get a new card number. The card number stays the same. The expiry date and the CVC change. And so we're still able to make those connections. Stripe's still able to make those connections. So if you're in a system that does force donors to churn card details whenever they expire, moving to Stripe and Raisely is a really great way to retain those donors because you won't have those churn moments anymore. It's a really good question. A few more things coming in. Tasha has asked, might be a silly question, no silly questions here. Most of our donors use PayPal. We have Stripe. Are there any tips on how to increase Stripe usage? It's a good question, Tasha. Maybe if you email our team, we can look at your account more specifically. We do find, and Martin, you might know this better than me, but last time I checked, it was about 20% of donations went through PayPal when both were available. Have you done any analysis on it recently?
As in the PayPal button?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it's 20 that high. Yeah, but yeah, I think it would be. Yeah.
Last time I checked.
I'll look it up in the background.
Okay. Last time I checked, it was when you had both options, most people chose to go through credit cards. So if you're seeing different trends there, then we can certainly look into that a bit more. Jordan has asked, any plans to be able to pass variable donation form fields through to PayPal? I think this may be a PayPal limitation rather than a Raisely one. I do believe it is. I think PayPal only gives us one field that we can set on a per transaction basis. We can't send custom fields like we can in Stripe, unfortunately. I think we've asked most of them. We are coming up to time. We've had an anonymous attendee ask, is the integration between Raisely and Razor's Edge NXT active yet? Does it mean when a donation is made via Raisely, it'll be imported to NXT? Yes, our integration is live. So you can check out our support site for instructions on how to get that integration up and running. You can integrate Raisely with Razor's Edge NXT instantly and automatically. That is available now. I think we've covered most of the questions, so we might wrap up there. If there is anything that I've missed, because I'm trying to multitask here, please send it through. So you've got our details. Support@raisely.com gets to our team. Tom@raisely.com is my email address. And of course, lastly, if you want to sneak a peek at that preview, there's that QR code again, so you can sign up. But otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I don't know, Martin, if you found the answer to that question before we log off.
10%. 10% is the number of like transactions that go through PayPal, but that's not just limited to those that have it on. So that's across all of transactions. But yeah,
across all of Raisely. Good stuff. All right. Well, big thank you to Laura and Martin for joining me today. Thanks so much for your time, both of you. And thank you, everyone, for coming along today. It's been super helpful. Thanks for your answers to those 2 roadmap questions as well, the 2 polls that'll really help us as we plan out the future. But thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Bye now.
Thanks, man.